Commander Thalen Rove never planned to leave the Black Ring Market with anything breathing. Stepped off the shuttle with a short list and long patience. Eyes set on a vendor 3 tiers deep into the illegal orbital bazaar. Stabilizers, cryotubing, hull mesh weapons only if cheap and only if quietly sold. Pirates had clipped his ship bad on the last run, left his drives blinking red and one reactor coil ruptured like a bruised lung. He needed parts, not problems. Not questions. And definitely not people. The market pulsed with neon grime and the thick scent of coolant, grease, and unwashed desperation. Sellers shouted above generator hums, some with toothy grins, others behind armored glass. Trade here was bloodless, but barely. Thalen made his way past crates of banned processors, blackwater fuel, cages of mutated pets with 6 eyes, and even a small shrine where someone had nailed an old fleet insignia beside. A prayer candle. Then the auctioneer's voice cut through the static. Lot 49. The voice crackled over a handheld speaker. Female Andari, intact, multilingual standard tongues, trade code, even ceremonial Zloran, pleasure-trained, empathy-enhanced, compliant. Thalen turned. He shouldn't have. He could have. Kept walking, but something in the crowd had shifted. Too quiet, too expectant. And when they dragged her out tall, thin, glowing faintly beneath cold lights, it was already too late. She stood straight despite the manacles. Her lavender skin dulled with dust, bioluminescent freckles flickering softly down her cheeks like starlight that had forgotten how to shine. Her eyes, amber, unblinking, did not look at the crowd. They looked through it, as if nothing here could surprise her anymore. She said nothing, did nothing, didn't plead, didn't tremble. That silence hit Thalen harder than any scream could. Condition, passive, no prior aggression. Trained for pleasure but can be retasked. Obedience mod still functioning. Starts at 5,000, someone called. 7, said another. Thalen opened his mouth. He didn't mean to, but his voice slipped past like it was someone else's. 10. Gasps. The auctioneer grinned. We have 10,000. 12. Came from behind. 15. Thalen said. Silence. Then the gavel struck the table with a finality that made Thalen's stomach lurch. Credits drained from his account. A small black fob control device, collar-linked, was pressed into his palm. It buzzed faintly, warm like something alive. Thalen didn't look at it. Couldn't. The girl was unchained, gently, politely. Expensive property being handled with care. He led her without touching her, without saying anything. The crowd parted, murmuring, some with pity, most with approval. The air felt thick and rotten. His boots echoed too loud in the corridor leading to the dock. On board the Halcyon Drifter, Thalen set the fob on the table, then slid it away like it might burn him. The girl stood still, just inside the cargo bay, not blinking, not asking. You're safe here, he said, voice dry. You don't have to do anything. Not for me, not for anyone. She didn't move. He stepped away, opened a storage bin, pulled out a clean water flask, and held it toward her. Here, you must be thirsty. She flinched, not violently, not dramatic. Just a tiny, instinctive jerk of the shoulders like she'd been struck before for taking something she shouldn't. It's okay, he said quickly, setting the flask down on a bench between them. Take it if you want, or not. Finally, her lips parted. Designation selai, she said softly, words shaped by trade dialect. Purpose, please. Thalen's breath caught. Not because of the words, but the way she said them. Automatic, practiced, like a machine repeating its startup sequence. You don't have one, he said, barely above a whisper. Not anymore. And my name's Thalen, not Master, Sully blinked. Not twice. Not slow, Once, long and still. Her glowing freckles dimmed, then flared faintly like confused static across a broken signal. She sat on the cold floor by the bulkhead, knees to her chest, staring at the water she hadn't touched. Thalen Rove turned away. Not out of shame, but because something deep in him had started to crack. He came here for parts. Now he had a person. And the most terrifying part? He had no idea how to give her back what was stolen. Thalen Rove didn't sleep the first night after bringing selai aboard. He told himself it was the aftershock of the auction, the weight of too many credits spent, or the way the collar fob kept pulsing like a phantom heartbeat in his memory. But that wasn't it. Not really. It was the silence. Not just selai's silence, but the silence of the ship reacting to her presence. The Halcyon Drifter was an old cargo vessel, patched with parts from 12 systems and usually loud in the right ways. A hum here, a vent sigh there, systems clicking as they self-regulated. But now, it felt like the ship was holding its breath, waiting, unsure of what this new presence meant. Selai hadn't moved from the cargo bay floor all night. Thalen left the flask, a ration bar, and a blanket nearby, then retreated to his quarters, door half open. He didn't tell her what to do, didn't try to convince her she was free. He knew words meant nothing yet. The next morning, she was gone. Panic hit first. Thalen tore through the ship like a madman. Cargo hold, mess deck, med bay, engineering crawl space. No signs, until he looked up. Maintenance Bay 4. Just under the primary vent grid, beside the shield DMPENERS. She was curled inside a berth. Space barely large enough to fit her shoulders. No blanket. No food wrapper. Just watching him with unreadable amber eyes. "You don't have to stay in there," he said gently, crouching. Less light. No direct paths. "Reduced threat exposure," she answered flatly. He nodded. Didn't argue. Instead, he set a datapad on the deck outside the vent, turned it on, and walked away. It displayed a single document. The Galactic Charter on Sentient Rights, 7th Revision. Selai. Didn't touch it for 12 hours. When he returned that night, the screen was still lit and the water flask was empty. The next morning, the datapad was off, but the document was 62% read. Over the next 2 days, he left more. Ship schematics, emergency protocols, language files, standard fleet resources. She didn't thank him, but she read them all. Crumbs of ration bars told him when, on day 3, she asked her first question. "Why is the autolock system disabled in the captain's quarters?" He paused mid-bite in the galley. "Because no one should feel trapped, not even me." Selai said nothing. Her freckles glowed a pale, cautious blue. That night, Thalen took the fob and walked into engineering. He didn't ask for permission. He knew that was still a foreign concept to her. But he made sure she was watching from the upper vent. He pulled out a fusion torch. He melted the control fob down to slag. No ceremony. No speeches. Just metal turning. Useless. When he turned, Selai was gone from the vent. But later, when he checked the main console logs, a new security profile had been added under non-crew technician access. Assigned name, Selai. Limited permissions, no override hierarchy. She had given herself a title, not assigned. Not tag. Chosen. But peace was still a distant thing. Her instincts didn't change just because he refused to order her around. Trauma didn't dissolve under politeness. She kept her eyes lowered, flinched if he moved too fast. Never turned her back to a doorway. One night, during a routine jump prep, Thalen reached past her for a systems lever. She recoiled so fast she hit the wall panel behind her. His heart broke in a new place. "I'm sorry," he said, backing away. She stared at him, blinked, then said quietly, "I expected correction." Reflex pattern 17. There's no punishment. Here, he whispered. Not ever. That is illogical, she said, confused. Order must be maintained. Then we'll learn how to keep order differently, he replied. Selai tilted her head like a machine reviewing corrupted input. Input accepted, she said after a long pause. But her voice cracked out. 2 nights later, she left a small slip of plas paper on the console near his bunk. It was written in blocky trade script. Neat but uncertain. If I break something by accident, will you throw me into space? He left a single word beneath it. The next morning, Kalan never. The note was gone by evening. But on the console screen, she'd left a diagnostic recommendation to improve life support efficiency by 18%. He implemented it without a word. Still, something was coming. A shadow beneath her eyes. An old signal trying to reboot. That night, as he walked past the cargo bay to do a systems check, he saw her sitting with her back against a crate. She wasn't reading. Or resting. Just staring. When she noticed him, her voice floated out like a whisper from another world. You didn't use the collar. Not even once. Thalen stood very still. I'm filing dissolution papers at the next port, he said. We'll make it official. A pause. Then, quietly. You purchased freedom you did not yet understand to give. He swallowed hard. I'll figure it out. Selai looked away. Her freckles dimmed, but not all the way. Your programming is inefficient, she murmured, almost like a joke. Thalen smiled. Good. I'm trying to stay that way. The distress signal came in on a low-frequency burst. Encrypted, weak, old-world formatting. Thalen nearly missed it. Only a flicker on the console caught his eye. A repeating ping from the edges of the Siren Drift, a notorious debris field. Too close to outlaw lanes. Too far from any patrolled corridor. He should have ignored it. Every instinct said trap. But he glanced toward engineering, where Selai was half-curled near the power relay, running spectral diagnostics with bare hands and silent focus, and the guilt in his chest bloomed like a bruise. He couldn't pretend not to see people anymore. Not after Lot 40-9. He opened the channel. Static. Garbled metadata. Faint words in the background. Escape pod. Oxygen low. Life form status. Red. He turned to the comm. Selai. Gear up. We're changing course. She didn't hesitate. Didn't question. Just nodded. Fingers already moving across the console to reroute the ship's heading. But her glow dimmed slightly, almost imperceptibly. As they neared the coordinates, the drift thickened. Rogue asteroids spun like forgotten teeth. Fractured hull pieces drifted like ghosts. Scanning, she said. Life signs confirmed. 1. Human, unconscious. The escape pod was small, wedged between 2 ruined freighter panels. Oxygen reading critical. Pull it in, Thalen ordered. Selai obeyed. But when the pod docked, she hesitated at the airlock controls. Her hand hovered over the panel. Something's wrong, she whispered. What do you mean? The pod's auto-distress wasn't launched from inside. It was triggered remotely. Thalen. Froze, trap? Possibly. Suggest tactical precautions. Stay behind me, he said, grabbing his plasma tool. Lock bay doors. Don't open them until I say, confirmed. He entered the bay with slow, practiced steps. The pod hissed open. Inside lay a man in fleet gear, mid-30s, unconscious or pretending, no weapons. A gash across his forehead. Thalen scanned him. Vital shallow but real. Maybe. Not a trap after all. But when he turned to call Selai in, movement in the shadows stopped him cold. A small surveillance drone, half the size of a fist, clung to the ceiling panel just above the pod. Blinking green. Active uplink. Selai. Before he could finish, the lights cut out. Then a voice rang out over the ship's old intercom, low and metallic. Unit 49 has been located. Return protocol engaged. Thalen's blood turned ice. Say lay single quotes S. past had caught up. The drone zapped downward, fast but not fast enough. A streak of violet surged past Thalen's vision like lightning. Selai slammed into the drone mid-air, her whole body twisting with unnatural force. Sparks exploded as she drove it into the bulkhead. One hit, two, three. The thing died in pieces. Thal and rushed forward. "Are you hurt?" She was shaking, not from injury, but rage. For the first time, he saw her eyes not calm, not resigned, but blazing. "They still think I'm theirs," she whispered. "They're wrong. They will come. Then we'll be ready." They sealed the airlock. The fleet man was revived in medbay, dazed and unaware. He'd been dumped as bait, just another variable in someone else's hunt. That night, Thalen walked into the engine room and found Selai rebuilding the security firewall from scratch. No fleet code. No ship presets. Just her own language loops. Protections, randomizations even he couldn't fully trace. "What are you doing?" he asked gently. She didn't look up. "If they come again, they will not speak to me. They will not find me. You're not theirs, Selai. You're crew. You're you." Her fingers slowed. "I killed the drone," she said, voice quiet. "You saved me. I was afraid of what I might do. You didn't lose control. You took control." For a long time, there was only the hum of the reactor. Then she turned to him, hands covered in filament grease. "I want a keycard," he blinked. "What?" "I want full access. Everywhere. All systems." He didn't answer immediately. That kind of access meant trust at a level most captains didn't give family. But then he thought about how she moved, how she watched every angle, how she fought for her freedom. "Done," he said. Selai reached out. They didn't shake hands. She just touched his palm. Once, and not a dot later that night, Thalen returned to his quarters and found a handwritten note under his bunk panel. "If I fail, don't fix me. Just let me choose." He folded the paper carefully. No reply this time. She knew his answer. But still, he left something beside her bunk. A blank KEYCARD. And underneath it, the access code. "Your name is the password." Navari Prime shimmered beneath them like a living jewel. Thalen adjusted the landing vector manually, ignoring the flight tower's polite hails. The city stretched out below, towers of glass, veins of glowing canals, curved rooftops woven together like silk under starlight. Once a war zone, now rebuilt by refugees and artists. No capital. No flags. Just free people. It was the only port in 3 sectors. That didn't scan for bio-tags. It was also hosting the Festival of Stars. Selai stood in the cockpit beside him, fingers folded tightly. She'd never asked to see the planet, but she hadn't protested either. Her crest freckles glowed faintly violet. Her body stayed stiff, but her eyes, those strange amber lights, kept drifting to the viewport, searching. "You don't have to disembark," Thalen said, adjusting thruster balance. "No pressure. I just need a few hours to grab shielding gel and some fiber converters. Figured you might like to walk." "Walk," she repeated. "Just outside. No collars. No designations." Selai didn't respond. They docked in Bay 9 to 12, just above the lower plaza. Through the blast doors, music spilled in real instruments, played by hand. Laughter. Flickers of stardust particles trailing from the air vents above, turning every step outside into a dance with light. Selai stood. At the threshold of the ramp, she looked down at her arms. She wore civilian clothes, now navy utility pants, a soft gray coat, but she still touched her own wrists like she expected cuffs. Thalen waited, saying nothing. She stepped down. The noise startled her. Too many voices, too much color. She flinched when a group of children ran past laughing, their hands covered in glowing paint. Thalen offered a folded sackcloth mask. She took it and pulled it over her head, just enough to blur her glow. They walked together, not touching, not speaking. The city smelled like grilled spices, citrus fruits, and incense. Vendors danced fire across skewers. Strangers threw powdered stardust into the air, coating the crowd in gold. Selai kept close to the shadows at first, watching, cataloging, calculating. What are they doing? She finally asked. Being alive, thalen said. She didn't answer. After an hour she wandered on her own. No orders. No tracking. No safety net. He kept his distance but stayed in sight. She stopped beside a group of street performers. One handed her a tiny chime disc, a children's toy that sang when spun. She turned it in her hand once, twice. Then flicked. Her wrist gently. A sound like wind through crystals poured out. For a moment, her freckles pulsed warm blue. A small girl smiled up at her and whispered, "You sound like the stars." Selai stared at her like she couldn't breathe. Then she looked away. She didn't run. Didn't retreat. Instead, she walked to the edge of the plaza where the upper platform overlooked the sea. She sat down alone. Thalen joined her, offering 2 small cups of hot root sap. "This is safe?" she asked. "Yes." She took one sip, closed her eyes. "Sweet," she whispered. "Strange." They watched as the first fire orbs were released, tiny floating lanterns rising toward the dome sky. Selai pulled her coat closer. Not from cold. But from a sensation she didn't know how to name. "You seem quiet," thalen said softly. "This is worse," she replied. "Worse? This feels good, but I know it ends. All good things end. And when it ends, the fall is sharper." "It doesn't have to end," he said. She looked at him then, and something in her face cracked. "They taught us pleasure was currency. Reward. I can't tell if I like this, or if I'm reacting because I think I should." "You're allowed to not know," he said. She didn't speak again until the final fireworks exploded over the sea, painting the clouds in fire and silver. When they returned to the ship, she walked ahead. She didn't go to the maintenance bay. She sat in the crew lounge, holding a chime disc and a street vendor's crystal pendant in one hand. That night, thalen found a new entry in the ship's log, selai. Designation updated, gives civilian crew probationary. Status: observational autonomy. Permissions: increasing. Emotional state: uncertain. She'd written it herself, but under that, in her private logs, one final line: "Today I danced, not with my body, but in the part of me they never reached." They arrived at -K3 under a false registry. The station spun like a blade above a green gas giant, its silver panels weathered by ion storms and neglect. It wasn't a place people visited unless they had to cold officials, rusty protocols, and laws so thick with red tape it felt like a trap. But here, in one of the few neutral charter courts left in this quadrant, thalen could file selai's dissolution papers. And end the last legal thread that still named her property. They docked. Under a false name, Drifter's End. Thalen wore his fleet badge under his collar, just in case. Selai wore no badge at all. They walked side by side into the registry hall, where the walls glowed dull white and cameras blinked like tired eyes. Selai kept her gaze low, not from fear, but calculation. "Are you sure?" he asked once more, just outside the magistrate chamber. "Yes," she said simply. "It's not about leaving. It's about burning the last map they wrote for me." Thalen nodded. Inside, the clerk's voice was thin and robotic. "Name of purchaser?" Thalen rove. "Acquisition code?" Lot 49. "Control." "Foe be destroyed." The clerk's eyes narrowed. "No fob? That's non-compliant." "She is free," Thalen said evenly. "This is formality." "Freedom," the clerk echoed. "Freedom requires processing, and processing requires fees." "Emancipation." "Fee," 68,000 credits. Thalen's jaw tightened. She cost 15, he said. The clerk didn't blink. This is bureaucratic conversion, not a refund. Thalen took a breath. Galactic Charter, Article 17. Section 4. Unproven? Want proof? He reached into his coat, pulled out a chip drive. This is a full surveillance log. 37 days. 0 commands issued. 0 caller activations. Voluntary labor, no binding contract. I can stream this over public bandwidth if you'd like. Every system in this sector will see what freedom looks like and what extortion does to your reputation. The clerk stiffened out of. Door behind them opened. The magistrate entered tall, expressionless, robed in black with a brass seal across her chest. She waved a hand. The clerk stepped back. We will verify the logs. If found valid, the magistrate said slowly, the collar will be dissolved without charge. And the record? Selai asked suddenly. Both men turned. She stepped forward. Voice steady. I want my file changed. Not erased, amended. I want it to say I chose. The magistrate tilted her head. You do not wish to be removed from the system? No, I wish to remain. But as evidence that systems fail. And that? One did not. A long pause. Then the magistrate nodded. Granted. 30 minutes later, in a small surgical room beneath the processing chamber, they cut the last shard of the collar from her neck. Had been inert for weeks. Still, the metal made a sound as it snapped. Not mechanical. Like a whisper. Selai touched her throat with both hands. Then exhaled. I thought I'd feel lighter, she said quietly. Do you? Thalen asked. No, I feel sharp. Like someone just gave me a blade and told me to remember I used to be soft. As they exited the hall, another clerk muttered under. His breath shaking his head. Could not be happier, he said. They always say that, until they see what freedom costs. Thalen stopped. Turned slowly. Grammar be damned, he said. She doesn't say she's happy. She is. And that's more than most of you will ever be. He didn't wait for a response. Back aboard the ship, Selai didn't speak for hours. She walked the halls alone. Paused in rooms she'd never entered. Stared at her reflection in the mess hall's window like it was a stranger trying to smile. Thalen found her later in the engine bay, where she was cleaning an old drive core with bare hands and a ferocity that looked like battle. You okay? He asked. I keep waiting for the door to lock, she said. For the command to come, for the punishment. It won't, he said. Not from me, not from this ship. That's what terrifies me, she whispered. Because if it doesn't come, I have to decide who I am without it. He nodded, sat beside her on the floor. You're not broken, he said. Just rewiring. You really think so? I know so. Because people who are broken don't ask who they are. They just follow. She looked at her hands. I want to learn something new, she said. Something useless. Something no one trained me to do. Name it. She hesitated. Then smiled faint but real. I want to learn how to tell a joke. Thalen laughed. Not at her, but with her. Deal, he said. That night, the ship log updated itself, this time without Thalen's input. Crew update. Selai, engineer access level. Full collar. Registry. Null command override. None status. Rewriting. 3 days after the registry trial, the first shadow fell across their hull. At first, it looked like a solar reflection, just a shimmer along the Halcyon drifter's starboard side while running low-speed diagnostics in an empty sector. Thalen dismissed it as sensor flare. Then the second shadow came. Then the third. Cloaked ships don't shimmer in open space. Not unless they want to be noticed. Selai saw them first. Not on the long-range scans, but in the rhythm of the console's heartbeat. Why? Is our telemetry hitching? she asked softly. Thalen looked over. She'd stopped mid-calibration, eyes locked on the fluctuating pulse of the relays. We're being echoed, she said. Spoofed? No, mirrored. Someone's watching, close and careful. They locked down comms. Reversed the transponder. Thalen adjusted their trajectory 5 degrees off course, too subtle for pursuit algorithms to notice, but enough to buy time. We need to disappear, he said. We already did, Selai whispered, but they remembered me anyway. 6 hours later, their luck snapped in half. A spike missile tore through the secondary thruster, no detonation, just pure kinetic force. The ship buckled. Alarms howled. Then came the voice. It poured through the comms without permission. Deep, slow, rich with corporate arrogance. Unit 49. Terminate self-emancipation protocol. Surrender for reprocessing. The human will be neutralized. Selai. Didn't flinch. Thalen reached for manual override. Don't, she said, stepping in front of him. They're targeting you, he hissed. No, she replied. They're targeting what I became. They powered down to minimal life support. Masked their signal with ion bursts. Hid in the tail of a nearby comet's gravity field. It wasn't enough. Boarding hooks struck the outer hull. Magnetic clamps latched like steel fingers. Intruders inbound. Armory? Thalen asked. We don't have one, Selai said. Sure about that? She opened the engineering floor panel, pulled out a plasma torch, rewired with flux triggers. Handcrafted. Illegal. I built one, she said. He almost smiled, but there was no time. They split. Thalen toward the upper corridor. Selai toward the engine bay. Lights cut out. Red pulses replaced them, 1 per 10 seconds. Like a heartbeat, counting down. The first merc through the corridor didn't see her coming. Selai dropped from the vent above, wrench in hand, landing without a sound. The impact knocked the merc flat. 1 pulse later, he was unconscious. Or, worse. Thalen fought 2 of them near the cockpit, sloppy, arrogant, trained for compliance, not resistance. He dragged one into the nav bay and locked the door. Crew override accepted. The system beeped. It recognized his authority. And hers. They regrouped in the medbay. 3 more enemies remained. The last wave carried stunners, not for him, for her. They want to reboot me, Selai whispered. Strip my updates. Restore default compliance. Code. Not gonna happen, Thalen said. Not on my ship. They'll breach the reactor bay, she said. We have a failsafe. But it's destructive. How destructive? Severe enough to cripple their uplink. Severe enough to stop me too. He stepped closer. You're not a weapon, Selai. I know, she said softly. But I was made to be used. Now I want to be chosen. Even. In sacrifice. She turned to go. Don't, Thalen said. She stopped. If you go in there, you might save the ship. But if you stay, we fight together. And if we go down, then at least it's us, not you alone. Sella stared at him. The glow along her cheeks flickered bright, then steady. Then come with me, she said. Together. They stormed the engine bay. 2 mercs were at the core console. Selai threw the first flashbang. Thalen tackled the second. Alarms shrieked. Core coolant sprayed. The heat rose fast. Shut them down. He yelled. Selai sprinted to the manual grid. Typed faster than anyone could see. Code spilled across the PIA. Screen in bright green bursts. Then she froze. They're in my head, she gasped. They found my neural sig. They're overriding. Thalen didn't hesitate. He yanked the override jack from his own neural node, the one tied to his prosthetic arm, and plugged it into hers. Jolt rocked them both. Then silence. The mercs collapsed, unmoving. The override signal fried. Selai dropped to her knees, shaking. What did you do? She whispered, Shared my firewall, he said, breathing hard. It's ugly, messy, full of bad jokes and worse encryption. But no one controls it but me. She stared at him, then laughed, not the cold, polite laugh she'd learned in the early days, a real one, broken, loud, alive. That's the worst system design I've ever heard of, she said. Works, doesn't it? Barely, just like us. The ship drifted in silence for hours after. Thalen repaired what he could. Selai burned the mercs' bodies in the waste bay. No ceremony. Just necessity. That night, she wrote something on the console. If I am ever captured again, do not save me. Not because I am not worth it, but because they are not worth owning even a piece of me. Thalen added a line underneath. We don't leave crew behind. And your crew. Always. She didn't delete it. The call came 2 weeks after the last merc died, screaming in their airlock. A soft tone, wrapped in high-priority encryption, beamed through the outer systems net, flagged by the Andari Unity Parliament. Sealed in legal formalities. Thalen watched the packet unfold on the display line by line, word by word, as Selai stood beside him, arms crossed, glow subdued. They want you, he said finally, to testify, not as property, as precedent. Selai said nothing. Outside, the stars turned quietly across the viewport, uncaring. You don't have to go, Thalen added. This isn't redemption. You owe them nothing. I'm not going for them, she said. I'm going for the ones who can't speak. Minus K3 had been shadows and red tape. But Unity Station. Unity Station was the sun. The great arc-wheel platform orbited a binary star, its panels wide as continents, humming with voices from every world. Ambassadors, war survivors, corporate moguls, ex-slaves hiding under clean uniforms. A place where silence wasn't absence, it was strategy. Say Laywar Gray. No collar, no paint, just coveralls stained with grease and coolant. Thalen walked beside her, still not used to how steady she moved now. No longer hiding in the maintenance bay. No longer checking the exits. As they stepped into the hearing chamber, eyes turned. Some whispered. Some frowned. One delegate, a Tigran bio-tyrant in polished green armor, snorted and said, Is this another emotional showpiece? Selai didn't. Flinched. She stepped to the dais, turned on the mic, and faced the room full of watchers and systems and laws. My name is selai rove, she said clearly. Unit designation 49, decommissioned. A pause. Long, heavy. Then, I stand here not to beg, not to accuse, but to testify, because you've been told that those like me were too broken to speak, too loyal to question, too programmed to want freedom. I am here to tell you that's a lie. A murmur rippled across the chamber. She lifted her hand, still marked by old collar residue, still faintly scarred. This is what they used to track me, to train me, to own me. And yet, she held up a keycard, simple blank. This is what gave me freedom. A delegate interrupted. How do we know your human didn't manipulate you? Selai smiled. Not gently, because he offered me freedom before he knew what it meant, and then backed it with his life, because he never gave me orders, only choices. The room went still. I killed for my survival. I hacked the code they buried in me. I wrote new software over old chains, not because I am exceptional, but because I was given time and space and respect. And I believe if you did the same for others, they would rise too. And if we outlaw indenture, asked a corporate rep, what do we lose? Selai answered without blinking. You lose the illusion that control equals peace. It ended in a vote. Narrow, bitter, hard fought, but it passed. Off-world indenture ban. Retroactively. Her name would become part of every case used to free those still tagged and collared. Back on the halcyon drifter, Thalen sat in the galley, half asleep with a cooling cup of bark brew when the cum buzzed. He answered selai single quotes as face flickered into view, her glow faint blue. It passed, she said. He grinned. Of course it did. You watched? I heard everything. We rerouted the signal through 12 scramblers. But the reactor nearly blew up from pride. She laughed. Then, I'm coming home. Thalen blinked. Home? Wayfarer, she said. That's what they call us now. Words out. The ship that broke the chain. He swallowed. When she arrived 3 days later, he found a new plaque bolted beside the main engine console. Chief Engineer, selai rove. Command override. None. Access level. All. Status. Chosen. He didn't ask who carved it. She didn't ask if she could stay. They sat together on the hull that night, tethered by cables, watching meteors paint fire trails across the sky. Selai broke the silence. You know what the irony is? What? They tried to make me a love slave, she said, voice quiet. Train me to obey. Smile, please. But in the end, the first time I ever felt real joy, real warmth, was when someone told me I didn't have to earn it. Thalen didn't answer. He didn't have to. She leaned against his shoulder. And together, under a field of burning stars, they said nothing at all. Not every wound needs words. Some heal in silence. Some heal in choosing.